Hello everyone, welcome to Success Strategies. In this video, we'll be discussing management of crisis or crisis management. Crises are inevitable in our lives. As a matter of fact, if you're going to achieve any substantial form of success, be prepared that you are going to come across crisis. But when this crisis happens, how do you manage them? It depends on your mindset. It depends on your view. You can use catalyst can come and weigh you down. It can come and put you under serious pressure that you hardly get out of. And at the same time, you may decide to use crisis positively. Crisis may come and you use it as a growth platform rather than seeing it as something that should weigh you down. In other words, crises are supposed to be harnessed positively to serve as a springboard for growth. Let's take, for instance, a student who fails in an exam. That student have two choices, either to accept that failure or to sit down, check what has caused his failure, then prepare more powerfully, more intelligently this time around. That is making use of crisis as a launch pad for growth. Those things we need to realize is that crises are inevitable in our lives. They are inevitable in our lives. This could be personal crisis, this could be professional crisis, financial crisis, or relational crisis. One or some of these crises are bound to happen in our lifetime. But how we respond to it determines where we will go. Crisis is more or less like an accident. They often come suddenly, which could threaten our stability. So that is why it is called crisis. It is sometimes something you are not prepared for, but that comes even without notifying you, which could threaten your stability. It could threaten your financial stability. It could threaten your personal stability. It could affect your confidence and progress when crisis occurs. But I want to tell you that you can harness the crisis for your growth. Let's take, for instance, wind, for example, a windstorm. A windstorm has the capacity to blow off roofs, destroy buildings, destroy cars, and so on and so forth. However, this same wind can be harnessed. The power of the wind can be harnessed to generate electricity. How amazing is that? The power of wind can be brought together to generate electricity, and that is how you should respond to crisis. Crises often come as if they are bad, but when they come, the lesson is more important than what the crisis is bringing. Use the lesson, harness the lesson positively, and use it for your growth. So when crisis occurs, notable things that will come is panic, denial, blame, and etc. Those things are inevitable. Be sure, because we are human beings, and because we are human beings, we respond to stimulus. So when it comes, you having panic in you, you know, blames coming. These things are they are very, very essential. They are very, very important, and they are expected. But your reaction to it is very, very important. It's even more important than the crisis uh, itself. See, crisis brings out the nature of crisis is such that when it happens, it reveals who we really are. It is in time of crisis that a person's personality is actually portrayed. It is when there is crisis that you really see who you are. How you respond to a crisis will really bring out the kind of person you are. Whether it is somebody who will be able to use this crisis to propel his or her growth, or somebody who the crisis will submerge. Again, crises do test our leadership quality. If you are in if you are in leadership, crisis is something you cannot do away without. Whether you are the head of the home, you are the head of an organization, or you are the head somewhere, crisis will always come, and this will test whether you are truly a leader or not. Imagine when there is a crisis and you as a leader cannot hold it. The moment you are unable to hold it, what do you expect of the followers to do? The followers will also go in disarray. So leadership, crisis equally tests our leadership, whether we truly are leaders or not. Then another thing is could be another nature of leadership is that another nature of crisis is that it could be internal. Crisis could be internal or external. Crisis may come as a form of burnout. Yes, it could come as a form of burnout. That is internal. And when you experience that, there are certain things you need to do for you to be able to manage such crisis, for you to be able to withstand such crisis. Economic downturn, public backlash, and so many other things are form of external crisis. Remember, crisis is inevitable. Crisis is inevitable in your road to success. Crisis is inevitable. There is always a giant in everybody's promised land, in every man's promised land. There is always a giant. These giants will come in form of a crisis, and you've got to understand how you confront the crisis. Crises are inevitable. Crisis will always come. So, like I mentioned, a crisis is like a storm. It has the capacity to uproot trees. But most times, trees that are shallow rooted are mostly uprooted first. And a storm finds it difficult for a tree that is deep rooted to uproot than a shallow rooted tree. So it is very important that you become a deep rooted person. Even if it is possible, you prepare for crisis. That is not to say that you are a pessimist. No, you are not a pessimist. You can prepare for crisis in case they come. In case crisis come, as a matter of fact, as a person, as a business, you've got to prepare for crisis. You've got to have crisis in mind Not that you want them to happen, but in case they happen, crisis would not meet you uh, suddenly. It will not just catch you unaware. Thank you very much for your listening attention. I challenge you that you should prepare for crisis in case they come, and use this crisis as a launch pad for greatness. Remember, it is not over until you win. Thank you very much for your listening attention. See you in other videos.